Hello and welcome to the Red Report. We are sponsored by the Best of Barnsley, and we are proud to be the part of the network, the Talk Sport network of fans. Sorry, that'll be clipped. We'll get it right one day.
No, it's falling apart already. Falling apart already.
A bit like Wednesday. Only a week ago, the Tigers came out triumphant over the South Yorkshire rival Sheffield Wednesday. But after a weekend with no football, the Tigers' display against Exeter did not resemble that of a promotion-chasing side in any way, shape or form. Has the bubble seriously burst, or was this a one-off below-par performance for Barnsley, who are still on course, potentially, for that second automatic promotion spot? To look at this in more detail, our regular co-hosts have assembled this evening. It is, of course, Ian from the Tigers blog. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, Carlo. Steve, you well?
Very well, sir. Very well. Nice to be back.
And he is there
from my exile.
Realising that he was late for Crufts, but he has bought a £700 tap. It's Steve Andrews. Steve, how are we doing?
I've got a new tap, mate. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Burnt my send twice. I haven't had it fitted yet, but really good.
And if you are watching, evening, Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Eisted, we love your Harry. Anyway, boys, Exeter. I did an interview with Rob Staten before the match for BBC Radio Sheffield, and I said, this is a Michael Duff moment, match, whatever you want to call it. It's easy to get riled up and ready when you've got Sheffield Wednesday with 3 million away in the away stand, South Yorkshire, Tuesday night, the whole town is buzzing. I think you need the manager more on a Tuesday night at Exeter. And it proved it, didn't it? Because it was well below par. Ian will dissect bit by bit, but overall, what was your impression of that match last night?
It was a stinker, basically. Right through the team. Before people jump down my throat and go, yeah, but we've been unbeaten in 12, 13 games. I get that. And I don't want to beat the team up too much. I think I think Michael Duff hit the nail on the head with his post-match summing up really that, yeah, everybody was off form, but you can't really beat them up too much, can you? Because they've been on fantastic fight. It was going to happen at some point. A degree of praise for Exeter. I thought they rode that first 20 minutes out when I thought we just passed them to death. And it looked like we started really well. But if you were going to analyse that game, I'd say, look, dodgy at the back. I thought Jordan Williams was at fault for 2 of the goals. He got beaten down the flank every time. You look at the midfield was busy, but didn't create anything for the front 2. And then we went to some sort of 4-2-4 to try and resurrect it. And they just looked like a lot of individuals. They all had an off day. But in context, what a great run. And the task now, if you wanted as a manager, as a motivation, you just say to them, there's 9 games left, lads. Go unbeaten again. That's the challenge, isn't it? Bad day at the office, try and move on. You got Morecambe on Saturday, a very winnable game. Let's start another run.
Yeah. Steve, in the South Yorkshire derby against Sheffield Wednesday, Harry Eisted, evening, Mr. Eisted, made a fantastic.
I do apologise.
Eisted made a fantastic save as a Sheffield Wednesday, so to save the ball from going over the byline and put the ball in. That's exactly what Exeter did. Is that something maybe they think is a weakness for Barnsley? And did they seek out our weak points, or was it like Ian says, we were just well below par and one to forget about?
Well, we had 11 weak points last night, didn't we? Let's be honest. I agree with Ian. It's no good beating everybody up. It's a it's a one-off. It's a blip. I think Morecambe personally is going to be harder than we think it's going to be. Because we all said Exeter, we should be going down there and getting 3 points, really, and we should have done. But yet again, we play teams like Wednesday, like Plymouth, and we play like a championship team. We get teams like Bristol Rovers and Exeter, and in some respects, they've done better homework, and they're just nullifiers. That first 20 minutes, like you say, Exeter were very lucky, although we didn't really have a clean chance as such, because again we still didn't really create anything that first 20 minutes. We played some nice balls about, but no end product, no else going in box. And then Exeter sort of found their niche, if you will. They found how to attack us. They could see that Jordan Williams were having an absolute nightmare down on right hand side, so they attacked him and made him look very, very ordinary. Midfield for me was poor. Unfortunately, Connell and Kane just didn't fire. Normally we can cope with perhaps one of them being a little bit off. Kane never produced out, didn't create anything. Connell just seemed to run around. I am going to say Phillips were non-existent again, and this is one of my bugbears at the minute. He scored some good goals. I just wonder if Phillips is a better sub, because for me, he never even created a thing last night, and a lot of time I never even heard his name. So I found that really disappointing. But again, you can't come off back of a 12, 13 game unbeaten run for one game and slag them uphill and down Dale. You've got to bite your tongue. Well, I haven't really, but they were shite.
Even Mr.
Istead. Sorry, Mr. Mitchell. I'll do my 100 lines later on. You know what? It's one of them. You can pull it apart. You can say this, that, and other all about it. The best thing you can do is say it was a bad night. Chalk it off. Wait and see what happens on Saturday.
Ian, it's interesting what Steve said, because it's right, isn't it?
That's the first time ever in years and years and years and years I've known Carlo that he has ever said, "That's interesting what Steve said." Unbelievable.
But it's right, isn't it? You look at the run, and it's that we can raise our game against Sheffield Wednesday, against Plymouth, against Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at the next 5 matches: Morecambe, Burton, Shrewsbury, Forest Green, and we know what Forest Green did against Massive Wednesday, and Lincoln. Do you say, are you in the camp saying, well, that's ideal, isn't it? You can look at Morecambe, who've won, I think, 1 or 2 away matches all season. They are struggling. They need a miracle to stay up. That's motivation in itself. Morecambe might look and say, well, look what Exeter did. Or do you say, actually, from a Barnsley point of view, you're back at home, get an atmosphere going, get back on that winning run? Is it like these are dangerous sides when they're sort of like lurk mid-table or they're near the bottom? Or is it the perfect opportunity, like you both said, to bounce back and start a new winning run?
You've got to be guarded, haven't you? We went to Morecambe and thought we'd win at Morecambe, no problem. And they were bottom of the league at the time. The Beatles 1-0, and we had a bit of a poor game that day. So, anything's possible. I'd like to think it's probably not a bad game. I think when we had, was it January, we had Accrington at home. And it was just after we'd had that little bit of a iffy run going out the cup at Derby, losing at Charlton and against Bolton. And we had Aki at home. And it was just ideally set up. And we won and played really well, and I think that's when the atmosphere kicked on. So I think Morecambe probably is the probably best one we could have had, to be honest. Yes, there will be a threat. They're fighting for their lives, but they're down there for a reason. It's a dangerous one, isn't it? Looking at the fixtures, I think Burton are always a tough opposition. Shrewsbury, although again that's at Oatwell, they're tough there, aren't they? Lincoln's a night match away. Again, when we played them at Oatwell, they were on a great run and they beat us 1-0 and we never got a sniff. But they're a different Lincoln to what was in last season. So it really is. It's difficult to try and predict. No, on paper, you would say they're 5 ideal fixtures. But there is the odd banana skin in there, like we saw at Bristol Rovers, like we saw last night. And I agree, Steve is right. Some of these teams have done, they have done the homework and they've matched us. And they've, so I think you've just got to all you can do is beat what's in front of you. Start with Morecambe on Saturday and start the run again. That's all you can do, and not look too far ahead, because I know Duff won't be looking beyond the next 45 minutes, will he? But you should be racking up quite a few points out of there. I'm not saying we'll win all of them.
No, but as fans though, Steve, you do, don't you? I'm looking now, as you can see, there's 9 matches left. I look at that and I literally go, I might be wrong, Morecambe, we are able of getting 3 points. Okay, away at Burton, we shouldn't lose. Put it that way. Shrewsbury, you should win that. Forest Green, I know what Forest Green did, but you know, Lincoln, Oxford at home. Right, okay, it's Ipswich, isn't it? 25th of April. It's the Ipswich match. That's going to be, if you can mirror Ipswich's result or better them, that's going to be the one. And then you're hoping on the Wednesday clip up, and then after Ipswich you got MK Dons and Peterborough. Michael Duff is saying 45 minutes. Right. Let's look then at what went wrong. We give credit to Exeter. You have to. They did the homework. They did really well. Did you feel it was a change of game plan almost, Steve? Because I felt that we just bypassed our own midfield. I think there was a lot of running, but it just felt at times that everything was just high and far to try and get to the Venti Call and James Norwood. It just felt like we've got it, off we go. And that quick passing, in spells we did, but overall I just felt it was very much route one, hope and see what happens. How would you sort of describe our playing style yesterday? Was it different than before?
I think I've already used that word. I'll not use it again. Sorry, Mr. Eisted. It's as though it's a default setting for us. As soon as we start, if we have players that's having a bad day, more than one, we seem to sort of default to let's knock it long and hope that somebody can get on end of it. Because when we've had bad runs before, especially start of season, you know, we all said, why are we playing long ball when we know we can play football, we can out football other teams, and it just seems as whether, I don't know whether it's Duff's not shouting loud enough, or players just sort of panic and think, "Oh my God, I've got to hit it long and try and get it to one at forwards," because that again were a prime example. You've got Norwood and Cole running about. They never got any service at all. Long balls were going over. They were a waste of time because they weren't good enough for a start. But there was no creativity through midfield. Nobody put the foot on ball and found a pass. Now, Kane's been doing that this season. I mean, he's gone up in my estimation 100%. Last night, he just didn't seem to. He didn't seem to have his eye in. He didn't seem to have that killer pass in him. And you could tell. And you could tell he was frustrated. I mean, I was frustrated when he took Connell off. I was surprised he took Connell off, to be quite honest. First person I would have taken off would have been Phillips. Simple as that. Probably for Thomas. Again, somebody to run at him, because Jordan Williams had a stinker. We know he did. Fair enough. But he didn't get any of his normal runs down that wing. There were nothing going into box. He were getting. I'll tell you, it reminded me of last night. Trent Alexander at Liverpool. Going forward is normally really good. Defending sometimes can be a bit iffy. Last night he never went forward, and his defending were rubbish. So it is. I think it's a default that the panic, to a certain extent, and the only outlet is a long ball up front. But we never have a player. We never have a player in that position to hit that long ball too, that then relieves pressure. Because that were another thing. That were another thing that Exeter did. First 20 minutes, we were all over them. We were pressuring them. It were high intensity, and we looked good for it. But then they were just doing the same to a certain extent to us. They were closing us players down. They weren't letting Kane get a pass away. They weren't letting Connell get a pass away. Cadden never got down left. Williams never got down right. Does that mean then that game plan goes out at window?
Yeah.
Because then after that, it defaulted to boom, boom, boom. Now, I'm not having a go at... Go on, sorry, Ian.
No, so I was just thinking, you're spot on, but I just thought when we got it back to 1-1, we seemed to settle back down again and just have a breather. And I thought, right, we'll kick on now and play our usual football that we've been playing for the last couple of months. And we didn't. We kept going with these long gameless balls that went straight out of touch. You were right.
And I've got to say as well, substitution wise, as I say, I was surprised he took Connell off, but he did. Fair enough. He obviously saw something that we didn't. But I come back to a comment I made probably 3 or 4 months ago. You've got people sat on that bench like Benson, like Watters, that you would think will be watching that game, same as us, and they'll be going, "Oh, he's not playing very well tonight. Oh, he's not playing very well tonight. I've got a chance here. If I go out there, I can, perhaps make a bit of a name for myself. Now I might be on starting 11 for next match." But they didn't. Benson came off and he gave it away more than he did Hotel Suite. Do you know what I mean? And it seemed to go through all players, not just 11 on pitch. As soon as subs came on, for me, again, they just weren't doing anything.
And Ian, as we're recording, I mean, it's 9:02 on a Wednesday evening.
It's time I were in bed.
I know
my carer's coming.
No, I've rung them. They're coming a bit later tonight, Dad.
Oh, it's all right. Cheers, man.
It's still Cheltenham 0, Sheffield Wednesday 0, and looking at the stats, it's a very sort of even match. I mean, in this league, anybody can beat anybody. Back to last night, did he made 4 substitutions in one go? Do you think that maybe that can unsettle things, or was that frustration, or was it like you just throw everything in the kitchen sink at them to try and force something? Because I just felt that afterwards, I felt throughout it was all a little bit disjointed. And you know what? Get it out of the way now before you play Ipswich, or before, But for it I don't know. What was your thoughts when 4 came on? I just felt that's almost 50% of the team, isn't it? It's not my master shit, but you know what I mean? It's a lot to then for them to immediately just, start performing. And I thought, would it be better to put maybe a couple on, wait 5-10 minutes and then put some more on? But 4?
I don't know. I think it warranted. If he could have made 10 subs, he'd have made 10 subs, wouldn't he, really? If he could have done. Yeah. I think it was sport for choice, Abu to take off. I was surprised Philip stayed on. Absolutely surprised Connell came off. I think he just went for another man up front, didn't he? I think he tried to make it like another striker. And it's one of them. The subs have worked brilliantly these last few weeks. I was only saying at the Wednesday game when they made it 2-2 with 15 minutes to go, our subs changed that game. Luke Thomas, who has been at the Wickham game, came off the bench and assisted for the winning goal with Tedic. He assisted for the final goal against Sheffield Wednesday. But even he couldn't bring his magic to the game. It was right through the side. So I don't think it was desperation. I think he had to do something. We were chasing the game at the end of the day, and he could have made any number of substitutions. So I think I kind of agreed. Really, I thought he was right. He could have made 10. So I don't read too much into that. I think he had to change something and change it quick. But like Steve said, none of them this time actually worked, whereas they've worked in recent weeks. The subs have changed the game.
Looking at then, gents, Steve, you first. Home match Saturday. You look at the table, and you see Morecambe third from bottom on 34 points. They've played a match. Well, they played 2 matches more than Cambridge beneath them, and 1 match more than Exeter above them. So they need to get some results. Out of their last 6, they drew 3 and lost 3. 1-0 loss away at MK Dons, 1-1 draw at home against Oxford. Charlton, they lost 4-1. Shrewsbury, they lost 3-1. Cambridge, who were just above them, 1-1 and 0-0 at Bolton. Do you give the normal starting 11 for Barnsley another chance? Or do you say, we can't afford to have this again? If we need to make changes, we'll make them now. And if so, what changes would you make?
Phillips wouldn't start for me. Not at all. And that's not just on last night's performance. That's on.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Cheltenham have just scored. It's Cheltenham 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0. So, sure.
Wow.
Go on, sorry.
They're as crap as us then, aren't they? No, you know what? Phillips won't start for me. For a simple reason, he has 1 good game. No, I'm lying. He has 1 good 15, 20 minutes, and then he's gone missing. He has 1 good 10, 15 minutes, he goes missing. So for me, Phillips won't play. And as much as it causes possibly, I don't know, a little bit of an unbalance, Jordan Williams wouldn't play on Saturday for me. I would say give him a rest, because not only were he poor, he looked leggy. But having said that, there were quite a few players I thought, after a week's rest, we out a game.
Yeah, look worse for it.
Look leggy. Yeah, they look leggy being out on piss all week. They've been a New York with Marcus Rashford. So that two changes I would make. I bring Barry young lad Cotter in, because when he came on them last few games, I know it's probably about a month ago, but he didn't do himself a disservice. He looked tidy. You know, we've just been saying it's only Morecambe. So is there not a better game for him to have a run out, even if he only does 45 minutes? So that'd be for me. I suppose for Phillips, I'd like Thomas to start.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Benson's just not. I don't know. Considering he looks a bit like to me how Kane looked last couple of seasons. He needs a good kick up backside to actually get himself motivated. Whether he's just that sort of player, he needs an arm around shoulders or a boot up bum, I don't know. But do you know what? He frustrates me. We've seen him have games where he's run show. He's been absolutely brilliant. But this last, I don't know, since even before injury, he's just not performing. He's not putting it in. He strikes me as somebody who thinks I don't know, does he think he's too good? But he ain't.
Ian, after the horror performance, blip, whatever you want to call it, against Exeter, do you think it's easier to motivate the players for a better performance after such a horror show, or if we would have won, is it harder to maintain with the pressure that grows? What do you think? Looking at Michael Duff and the sort of person he is maybe getting this bad game out of the way a perfect way of trying to go now 9 unbeaten, whether that be draws, after saying this is what it does, because it looks like we're getting maybe another chance or a second bite at the cherry with the current result as it stands in Cheltenham.
Yeah, I'd set them a task and go put the wrongs of Exeter right and go on another run. You know, that those supporters who went all that way to Exeter, he commented on it, go and give the supporters something to cheer about by 5 o'clock on Saturday. I agree with Steve. I'd freshen it up. I wouldn't make wholesale changes. I'd freshen it up, like you say, maybe Williams if Barry Cotter's fit. I'd like to see Luke Thomas given 70, 80 minutes. You might want to change the strike. I'm not saying because of last night's performance, but it might be, do you bring... I suppose it depends how they're playing in training. Is it time to give Tedic a start? Or nothing against Cole and Norwood, they are our best two. But I would like to make just two or three subtle changes. I think you can get away with it against Morecambe, if I'm honest. I hope that don't come back to bite me, but I think just to freshen it up and some of those lads who've been patient on the bench and only been getting 10, 15 minutes, give them 60, 70 on Saturday and see what they can do and say, look, there's a shirt there for you.
Well, the Reds report ensembles on Saturday as we all attend the home match against Morecambe. But before we do, we need to just discuss what the final score is going to be. We know Michael Duff listens, evening Mr. Duff. We know Mr. Eisted listens. Mr. Eisted, evening Mr. Mitchell. See you at work tomorrow. Steve, because you were at Crufts. Well, you weren't at Crufts. You bought a £700 tap. What is the final score going to be? And who will be the first, if there is any Barnsley goal scorers, because you have to wonder these days, who's going to score first and what will the final result be?
Well, knowing my predictions are always
wrong,
unbelievably pathetic. I think this time we will bounce, but I don't think Duff will let them wallow on last night. I think he will freshen it up a little bit. I hope he does. His mentality and his fighting mentality won't let him just dwell on last night. I think he will be, put it to bed. We know what we did wrong. Go out there on Saturday and put it right. So I think it'll be 2-0 to us. And I think your first goal scorer will not be Mads Anderson at back post for a header.
What?
Just for a change. No, I'm not having it. I'm going to go Herbie Kane.
Herbie Kane. Ian, just before we go to you, I can tell you now it's Cheltenham 2, Sheffield Wednesday 0.
Oh, he's getting sacked in the morning. He's getting sacked in the morning.
That's 3 on the bounce. I mean, from a Barnsley point of view, for Michael Duff, you can use that, can't you? I mean, this is a team that lost one of what not to do. I know we lost, and that was after the Lord Mayor show. You know, we had a stinker. It's maybe bigger than we think, isn't it? People say who's just Morecambe, but actually, in the run of things and looking what teams above us are doing, i.e., Sheffield Wednesday, it's difficult enough to lose one, but you don't want to go down that slope because that has a big impact. So let's say we will win then against Morecambe. Come on, you tell us, because you normally know these things. Who's going to score and what will the final result be?
3-0 to the Reds. I'd like to say Luke Thomas will start and score.
I like it.
You watch him on the bench, won't come on.
I'm going to continue the theme. So Steve says 2-0, 3-0. So I'll go 4-0.
Oh, piss again.
He's had a drink.
This Red Bull's really strong. Other drinks are available.
That's not Red Bull. That's not Red Bull, is it?
Bison or something.
What's that? Where have you got that from? That's dodgy, that, mate. You want to be careful what's in that. Marijuana? What's that?
Jesus, Steve. 4-0. And I will go with Devon because I backed him to be our top goal scorer. And I just think, and I do think if you have somebody like Thomas, I think the service should improve. I think Phillips always has a chance or two, but he's just not been putting them away. And I think the biggest message is probably that, we're all a bit nervous. We all thought it was disappointing. Those that travelled all that way for a hot drink, which is a nice touch from the club in fairness, but it's a long way back when you've lost. So let's get that atmosphere going, Alquell. Let's roar them on, be the 12th man, whatever you want to call. But this is where we pay Michael Duff, maybe not the big money, but the money for, isn't it? To motivate, to get him from, well, this is what we don't want. And then, Morecambe come to town. So if you are going on Saturday, enjoy it. Let's hope we don't do a Sheffield Wednesday. We're currently losing 2-0 away at Cheltenham, he says without smiling. As always, Ian from the Tigers blog, thank you very, very much. We'll see you Saturday.
Yes, we need to sort out this pre-match pint.
Oh, yeah.
You need to make sure your papers are up to date and your visa and what have you for coming over at Pennines.
I know, yeah. I won't get let in, will I?
Well, we'll have to see what we can do. You're looking a bit brown, actually, mate. You're looking a bit too brown. I don't know if it's suntan or rust.
It's rust. It's done now, but it's been rain every day since I come back from Spain.
Oh, it's your fault then, mate. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Steve Andrews, as always, thank you very much. You can now let your carer in. I've just had a message that the 5 minutes out, so you go and.
I'm going to go and play with me tap.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it, mate. You play.
There's no need, is there? There's no. Talk to me about swearing, and you just innuendos on this show is absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
By the best of Barnsley, and for now we're still part of the TalkSport network of fans. You'll be listening to the Barnsley FC Reds Report, longest running podcast for Barnsley FC. We hope you can join us again next week. That's of course if we've not been arrested and put in prison. Thank you for listening. See you next week.